instead of going to sleep at 12 a.m. and I was finished with everything, I didn't. I started ChatGPT stupid question, but there was one thing that it said, which is like, it said that I go between exploration and synthesis. Says when you're learning, your mind looks like this. I'm connecting things. I connect things, it's a web. My mind looks like a web. That's how I naturally think. But what I want to produce is this like structured thing. It is not exploration at its synthesis. Okay, so what I like is exploring, but what I want to produce, that is this synthesis. I actually think you're trying to do synthesis while you're still exploring. So it's like yeah, it says like same with feminism. You don't want just scattered, don't just want scattered thoughts. You want, this is my map, not because you want to be right, but because you want something coherent. And yes, I want to create coherent things. I want to write down my insights, my position on things, and just finish that thing so that it is completed, it's coherent, it makes sense, it explains things clearly. It's like a finished product. Okay, so anyway, it said that but then I wrote that it said like, if I have to write something down, then I have to know my final position or something. But then I said like, it's not about knowing final position. I could have known my final position, but then having to actually sit down and write it, that feels really tedious. I don't have trouble writing things. I don't have trouble writing insights and putting my thoughts down, starting the work. I have problem with polishing it, actually edit it. Yeah, like I said, building up on it and editing it and polishing it so that it's finished. I can write things when I have an insight, but building on it, editing it, and polishing it is different. So that's the same with like the articles that I was trying to write. I had an idea, I wanted to write it down, and I wanted to clearly write it down so that it made sense. And yeah, like the scope explosion definitely comes in here, but it's like to actually sit down and then kind of edit it and write it down, that kind of seems hard. Like it's not really hard. If I get into it, it is fine. But making myself start doing that thing, that is really hard. And it's like, even if I sometimes force myself to do that thing, then it just doesn't work. It's like I have to somehow get into it and still have my mind working. Okay, so I should have some kind of clarity, some kind of vision, or something that kind of keeps me going, telling me like what I need to do to edit this article, to finish it, and all of that. And it's not always working. So it's like, I don't know, the polishing thing, the editing thing, that is really difficult. And I could think about doing something and I could think about all of the arguments in my head, but then actually writing them down, creating the thing, like doing that step by step tedious process to actually complete the task, that is difficult. I don't know. It says like, yeah, I'm good at discovery. It's like I think I finally understand why main exists. And yeah, something like that. Like I like this. I like understanding how this works. That makes so much sense. But now it says activity reconstruction. You have to ask, is this actually true? How should I organize it? What should come first? What examples should I use? Which parts are repetitive? How do I make it understandable? That's a completely different task. It requires sustained editing. Yeah, once I understand why main exists, but then actually, yeah, like making sure that that is true, like I understood it correctly. And sometimes it's like, I understand some of it and not other, so I have to kind of learn the whole thing. Yeah, and like how should I organize it? So for the Java or like SC series, like how should I organize all the videos? What should come first? What example should I use? Yeah, how do I make it understandable? Yeah, I have to ask all of these questions and I get stuck. Okay, yeah, it says like my biggest strength is generating conceptual insights. That is true. You repeatedly generate interesting ways of looking at things. But then you expect yourself to immediately become an editor, an author, and a curriculum designer. Yeah, I do become that. Just start thinking about how to edit it, how to write it down, how to design a curriculum so that I can design a course or something. Anyway, I also noticed people won't say something like, wait, then 5 minutes later, we built an explanation together. You didn't struggle to think, you struggled to finish. I wonder if you're trying to make every insight into its final form immediately. Imagine instead, insight capture, leave it, come back a week later, expand it, come back later, polish it. Instead of insight, perfect essay. I also think you've excellently described why you like recording videos. Talking lets you stay in discovery mode. Writing forces you into editing mode almost immediately. Those feel very different. One thing I experiment with is separating the roles. When inspiration strikes, your only job is to capture it, not organize it, not polish it, not turn it into a course, just preserve it. Okay, then schedule completely separate sessions. Whose only purpose is today I'm not discovering anything. I'm just taking three old insights and connecting them. Those are synthesis sessions. I wish I could do that. I just like, but like, I can't work on something if I am not feeling that spark. Okay, like that article that I wrote that I was talking about, that was about something, explaining something. And I think now I've kind of completed the whole thing, what the whole set of ideas were. But now I have to actually write them all down, you know, and it's like I haven't really written them down completely, like expanded that article. So that's a problem. I need to work on that. But I also have several hundred other things to do that I have to do. Should I spend 3 hours on that? Or should I do my Math 2 project? I don't know. Is it executive dysfunction? Yeah, I don't want to let insight disappear because they usually just disappear. I need to figure out how to, yeah, I need to kind of, exactly, this is the thing I need to do, work on. Just taking all of the things I have generated, all the ideas, all the insights, all the explanations that I've written that are scattered, then kind of synthesize them into its final form. To do that, I'll have to come back to it and work on just synthesis. That is great. I think I'm just gonna sleep now. Bye.